and welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to be going over 3 simple ways for you to make a pouring pitcher. So something kind of like this, it's going to have a spout. So I'm just going to be showing you 3 different ways to make a spout that are really easy on the wheel. So let's dive into it. All right, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to get your pitcher into a form that is relatively what you want it to look like, except for the spout. And the first way that I'm going to show you is going to be the easiest. It's going to seem really simple once I do it. I'm going to use 2 fingers on one side. I'm going to find where I want to make my spout, so that's going to be right in the middle here. And I'm just going to use my 2 fingers to kind of hold that in place, and I'm just going to push. So if you see, holding and just pushing this out a little bit. So that way, really simple, really small, and you can grab as much of this end as you want. So if you want the spout to be a bit bigger, we can grab a little bit further back and push more of it out, but I think that's good. And I'm kind of giving it a little wiggle here with my side hand, just to kind of make this a little more drama-sized right here to really get that spout to flare. So that is the first way. Okay, so just for the sake of time, I went ahead and did this without the camera off. But essentially, once we get to this point again, instead of just kind of squeezing and pinching, we're gonna find our spot for the spout. I'm still gonna have kind of my area sectioned off, but we're gonna wanna leave a little bit more room, so I'm not gonna really pull this out. I'm just gonna kind of pinch. So that way we have this here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna start to kind of pull this like we would a handle. So I'm just gonna get my fingers wet. Let me kind of adjust this so it's more comfortable, but just kind of with my thumb and my index finger, we're just gonna slowly kind of start to pull up so that way it elevates this side, leaving a space for the water to flow. You want to be careful too with this one that you don't get this too thin. So if you want to go ahead and do this method for your picture, I would suggest leaving the top maybe a little bit thicker. The thicker that you leave it, the more you're going to have to pull on, so the taller you're going to be able to get it. You want to make sure you're getting every part of this lip evenly, so that way it doesn't look lopsided in thickness. Okay, so once we have this, I find it easiest to kind of just take my sponge, so that way we're not really worried about ruining it with our fingers again. So if I turn this sideways, you can see that this is now at least like ½ an inch taller than the rest of this. So when we go to pour our water, it's automatically gonna wanna go into this spot because now we have this like dip here. And you wanna clean up any water you end up leaving on the inside during this. And then if you wanna go ahead and pinch too, like the last method, you can, but for me, I kinda like to leave this a little bit wider when we do this method. So there is that. Okay, so for the last one, we are going to want a needle tool and to just kind of think about this for a second. So the last two, we kind of pulled the spout out or we lifted it up. And now the key to having a functionally pouring spout is that it does kind of lead the water pretty easily into and out of your pitcher. So you want to kind of have a spot where it's going to want to land. So no matter what, you're going to kind of want to make your what is now a circle a little bit oblong. So I'm going to kind of push this together just a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut. So instead of pulling it up, we're going to cut down instead. So I'm gonna start at a corner, and instead of going from the side whenever we cut off our top, I'm just gonna kind of go at an angle. And it's okay to go slow at this and maybe make like a small incision before you go all the way through first. So I'm gonna start here, and I want this to be my front, so, well. So you can kind of see I made this line that leads up on both sides. So that way this is kind of my spout here. So now that we know where that line relatively is, I'm gonna go in and just kind of cut down that way. You can wait until this is a little bit drier if you'd like. And I didn't get all the way through, so I'm just gonna kind of go in and follow that needle mark where I put it in last time until we get our cut through. Cool, so that comes off. Now we can see we have one side taller than the other, so you're gonna wanna go ahead and clean this up a little bit. I always go ahead and use my sponge for the most part for this. And if you have extra little pieces like this, it's okay to also cut them off. And I'm finding that this isn't exactly perfect, which most of the time it's not gonna be on the first try. You can go back in as many times as you like. So it doesn't have to be spinning either for you to cut it. And if it ends up kind of back in that circular shape, we can go ahead and kind of squeeze these sides together again. And I kind of like to keep the background. And now at this point, I'm gonna squeeze this a little bit more here. And I always kind of bump this out because you do want to remember that at some point you will have to clean these if you're using them. So You want to make sure that there is enough space back here that you can, you know, get a finger in or a sponge in later. At least that's usually my personal preference. So we're kind of doing a mixture of the other two here. So I kind of pinched, and I could just leave it like this. So here you can kind of see it's taller, it works. So I really like to emphasize this. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my second method here in conjunction with this third one that I'm showing you. Just to really get this into a cool shape here. And we could have just left it, so this is just like a personal choice of mine, but whatever you decide to do with this information is up to you. And sometimes I like to kind of go in from the front too. We can, you know, really get that shape. Do something funky for us. So. There is our third. And of course, with all of these, we're gonna wanna add a handle once this gets dry and trim up the bottom if we can. If you find that any of your spouts start to kind of cave in a little bit, go ahead and take a sponge. You can just kind of set that in there sideways and kind of prop that between the sides. Most of the time that will just hold until it is totally dry, so. All right, everyone, so there you have it. That is 3 easy ways to make a picture on the wheel. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit like, subscribe, and thank you all for watching. I'll see you next week.